In Matthew 4, we had the temptation of Jesus, where obviously the devil himself is tempting the Son of God. And before I get into there about some unique things that I found along the way, I want to share with you the 3 temptations in our life. I heard a military quote that kind of went along the lines of, if you don't know your enemy, how are you supposed to conquer your enemy? And I want to let you know that a lot of us talk about like, when we are tempted by something, the devil's out to get me. But you're probably not that special. Jesus himself was special enough to have the devil come after him, but he can only be at one place at one time. I'm talking about the devil, not Jesus. He can be anywhere. But he's probably not tempting you. So what is tempting you? Well, I do believe there are spiritual forces in our life that can distract us, that want to distract us. But if that's not going on, there are other temptations that you might not be aware of. The second temptation, yourself. A lot of times you yourself tempt yourself. Why? Well, it's because you are a selfish person just like I am. We're born with selfish nature, only wanting to care for ourselves and our desires. So whatever it is, we love to go after whatever we want. The other temptation I want to talk about is the world itself. You see, the world is always barking at us and yelling at us, trying to get our attention through social media, through the news, through our friends, through schools, through all these things, trying to tell us to do things we know we shouldn't do. Those are the 3 temptations in our life that we need to be aware of. And I believe if we are aware of it, we're able to conquer them better. Now, here's the thought. Jesus was tempted only by Satan, right? Well, I also think that Satan used all 3 temptations against Jesus. And we can see that in Matthew 4. Why? Because Satan himself, of course, is tempting him. But how does he tempt him? He says to him, turn this rock into bread. Jesus' own selfish desire wanted to turn that rock into bread, right? But because he was the Son of God, because he was filled with the Holy Spirit, because he knew that it was not in him to sin, he chose not to do that. But it was the temptation of himself, his own desire, that was yelling at him to turn the rock into bread. Then Satan offers him the world and the kingdoms of the world, all of that around him. And that is the temptation of the world in front of Jesus' own eyes. Be as cool as you want, be the king, everyone will worship you, all of these desires, and do this and do that. But Jesus said no. And that's a great example for us to follow. So when those temptations come in your life and those things come after you to bark and yell at you, look at Jesus' example to know that although he lived a life that was based on being a servant, and he also lived a life where he had to sacrifice his life for us, he now sits at the right hand of the Father, and he is the King of all kings. I believe that if you choose to live a life not for yourself, but for God and his kingdom, you will have blessings and riches and treasures in heaven. So let that be an encouragement to you. Let that help dictate how you live your life today. Love you all. See you later.